If you're not reaching your financial potential, you're going it alone as a solopreneur, or you're lacking fulfillment and meaning in your life, then this podcast is for you. In each and every episode, Rock helps you create breakthroughs and results so you can live life on your terms. So get ready to unleash more money, time, and magic in your life. Here's your host, Rock Thomas.
You've probably heard that you are the average of the 5 people that you hang out with. Today, I want to encourage you to stop and reflect for a moment. Who are you actually spending your time with? Are these supportive, encouraging people that are motivated action takers and that share a common dream to live a life that's full and fulfilled? Or are they more unhappy, unmotivated, and stuck and pulling your energy vampires, as we like to say? Or are they somewhere in the middle? Either way, whoever you surround yourself has a ripple effect on the results in your life. So the good news is that surrounding yourself with high achieving, motivated, happy people that are moving toward the best version of themselves will affect you and accelerate your success. How do I know this? I've been running mastermind groups for over 8 years now, and I see it day in and day out. The most important element of your success is who you surround yourself with. So what are you doing about that? And that's the whole point of this show, listening to people that have a different perspective, people that are successful, people that maybe you want to get to know and reach out to and give you their contact information. However, when you're ready to truly start your path toward financial freedom and fulfillment in your life, then find out what mastermind fits for you. All you have to do is to go to rockthomas.com/VIP call, rockthomas.com/VIP call, jump on a call with one of my directors of opportunity, and then find out if it's a fit for you. Hey everybody, welcome back to another session of the podcast. I'm your host, Rock Thomas, and I have a really fascinating guest today. He would describe himself in one word: passion. His accomplishments have been well recognized all over the business community, and in 2010, he was awarded the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year. His companies have also been featured for 6 years running in such prestigious industry lists as Entrepreneur 500, Inc. 5000, Top Global and Franchise 500. Now, what did he create? Well, with his passion and his awareness of what people need in the industry, he is the type of guy who's gone into fitness, and he created Snap Fitness. It's an affordable 24/7 results-driven gym. It differentiates itself from the expensive big box experience. And today it has 2,500 locations in 26 countries. Now, Peter Taunton, who is the pioneer, who is the CEO of Lift Brands, didn't stop there. He went on to acquire also 9 Round, Farrell's, Yoga Fit, Steel Fitness, Fitness on Demand, and together, all of those create the world's largest wellness franchise organization with over 6,000 locations. That's right, 6,000 locations serving over 165 million workouts and counting. So his ability to figure out how to match what people need with an ever-changing society has allowed him to be massively successful. He also believes that success is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. I think we're going to have a fascinating conversation with this incredible entrepreneur. So please help me welcome a very cool conversation with CEO of Lift Brands, Peter Taunton. And welcome. So excited to be here with you. I love doing your introduction because there's so much meat on the bones with somebody like you, a serial entrepreneur and a person who believes that, 90% of life is how you respond to what's happening. And you're a passionate guy, all things I can, subscribe to, and my listeners as well. So welcome, Peter. Great to have you here.
Hey, Rock. Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this interview as well. So it's been my pleasure.
So a lot of people dream of being you or of creating what you've created. And from the outside, it looks probably really sexy. But tell us about some of the trials and tribulations, some of the parts of you as a leader. A lot of people, I think, we're going through tough times right now. We're witnessing the lack of leadership in the world. but to create a vision like you created, to communicate that with people, to attract talent, those are all things that people could really learn from. I'd love to hear what your insights are on that.
You know what? That's a great question, and especially right out of the gate. So for me, I am one of those few guys, Rock, that I feel like I've had the opportunity to live the American dream. I literally, and we spoke about it earlier on, working in the health and wellness space, you're changing lives every day. And if you do things right, you can actually make a living at it. And so for me, my entire life, I've been in the wellness space for 35 years. It wasn't all up and to the right in terms of growth, right? I mean, and I have a lot of friends, and I do a lot of consulting, and I'll tell you, anyone that's experienced any level of success, they'll tell you that in times of adversity is when the real growth occurs. And so you can't be afraid to fail, number one. And number two, you got to appreciate those down moments, and where you've got to dig in and lean in and figure out really innovative ways to plow through unique circumstances. Not all that different than what we're experiencing today with COVID. I mean,
right.
we got literally 70%. I've got probably 2,000 locations closed right now. Been closed for 90 days.
Wow.
That's character building moments for everyone. And I empathize with those franchisees because they didn't plan for it. No. You wake up one day, you work your ass off. You bet the farm on owning your own business in a space that you're passionate about. Right. And you actually get over that hump of having enough memberships to now where you're making money. And then out of the blue one day, the government says, hey, by the way, you need to close your doors. And yeah. I think if people had a chance to take a step back and realize that it could be 3 or 4 months before they got to reopen them, I think they would have had a little more hesitation, a little bit more moment of pause. But let's face it, everyone was supportive of it, myself included, early on, to say, look, we don't know what the hell this is. We need to do the right thing. And so let's shut our doors and be safe, because we don't know. Early on, the media ran with this thing, as you know, like it was a death sentence. People thought it was Armageddon, right? Yeah. And today, we know so much more. Today, it's a shame. If your business is not open today, it's an absolute shame. I mean, literally, like 0.2% of people that get COVID today die. All right. And I think that's a statistic that people need to understand. There's people that are at risk, at health risk right now for the flu. I mean, heart disease, all of it. So you can't live your life in a bubble. And anyway, so don't get me started on that tangent, Rock. I could talk for hours on it, but I'm telling you straight away, it's those kind of moments as an entrepreneur that I completely empathize with those business owners who feel like they were completely blindsided. They're flat. They're out of money. They never thought that they would need to have 4 or 5 months of dry powder in the bank. And when they had to lock their doors, they couldn't charge the members. The bills keep coming. Life keeps going. And, before you know it, you're bankrupt. And that's where we see a lot of it today.
And yet, when we look at the really good fundamentals, principles of success, people should have 3 to 6 months of contingency in their businesses. That's a principle that is available.
Yeah.
But most people wait and hope things get easier. So now I think this has exposed a lot of people where it comes to either your physical fitness. If you're at risk, it's time to maybe level up. And if you're financially not behaving well, it's time to now level up. I know when we went through 2008, I was not prepared to take advantage of the situation. And I promised myself I would have dry powder and cash in the bank in preparation. And fortunately, the stock market has been very good to me in the last couple of weeks because of that reason. Right. So for all those people listening that you weren't prepared for this one, guess what? There's going to be another one in 10 or 7 years, and file away the learnings and get prepared and take advantage of it.
And that's a true statement, Rock. You know what? I think people today, I think that as we come out of COVID, and we're certainly moving in that direction, I know at least in the United States anyway, we're moving in that direction, and it's getting to a point where the local governors have not opened up their states yet. They're starting to get held accountable for that decision as well. So let's assume that everyone's going to come out the other side. I think that we're going to come out of this such a different country. Number one, I think with this, I mean, and you, I don't know how old you are, Rock, but I mean, I felt the 2003 .com crash. I felt the 2008 real estate crash, and now COVID. And COVID dwarfs the other two. We've never been in a situation where the entire economy, global economy, like a screeching halt. I mean, if somebody had told me that, I would say there's no way that's possible. It did. I mean, it happened. So I think that people are going to come out of this much wiser, much better prepared to realize that, look, when things go bad, it can get really, really bad. So you've got that dry powder that you and I have been talking about. It's critical, because without cash flow, we'll put it this way, with no cash flow and no dry powder, you're a nervous wreck. It's emotionally draining on you. And especially if you have children or other dependents on you, it just exacerbates itself. It's just a bad situation. So, you know,
I agree.
It's just fortunate. And, you know, the good news is if you can come out of this and start saving money and really come up with a plan, the next opportunity like this comes along, you're going to be able to capitalize on some of it. No question about it.
Yeah, 100%. Let's go back a little bit to the first snap that you opened and how you cast that vision to be able to get so many people enrolled and excited about it.
You know what? The first Snap that I opened, I didn't open it under the pretense that I was going to have thousands of stores. Okay. I had, in the 20 years prior to starting Snap Fitness. Now, Snap Fitness, I founded 15 years ago. 20 years prior to that, I owned and operated a health club. Well, I had one individual who worked with me, and he was such a loyal employee, great, absolutely great guy. So when I sold the company, I created an employment contract for him and the new owners, where he was well taken care of. But the one thing that he couldn't adjust to was the culture change. The dynamics of that company changed dramatically. So he came to me and said, Peter, would you ever consider building a club? And I said no to him probably 4 or 5 times. But then finally one day I'm thinking about it. I said, you know, rather than having this big club with indoor pools and aerobic classes and racquetball courts and these big clubs equal big overhead. And I said, you know what, I'm not really interested in doing that. And that's what got my mind thinking about, what if I cut out the pool and studios? And before you know it, this club went from 40,000 square feet down to about 4 or 5. Instead of having 50 employees, I had 2. So
Right.
I started thinking about the unit level economics. And so I built one club. And when I built that club and I had him run it, I sold enough memberships in 90 days to cash flow that business for the year. That, to me, as an entrepreneur, that was eye-opening. I was pleasantly surprised, because the risk adversity that I had, the risk had evaporated in a very short period of time. The capital requirement was literally 1/10 of the cost to open up a larger facility. So when the club took off, I said, I want to do another one. That's the serial entrepreneur in me. I said, let's do another one. And the first club I opened was in an urban market, a bigger city. And then I built one in a mid-sized market. I said, I want to know how this works in the mid-sized market, because mid-sized market, the overhead tends to be less. The club performed the same way. Now, if you can imagine, Rock, at that point, I'm thinking, this is a pretty good deal. My invested capital to get a store open was literally about $100,000 of cash. And then I would finance the balance for about another 100 to 150. And within 3-4 months, this thing was kicking $5,000-$10,000 a month of cash flow to the bottom line, right? So you start talking return on cash, my ROI cash on cash, it was like 100%, right?
Wow.
Well, then I said, I'm gonna build another one. Well, the guy that I brought on, he's all in, right? He's thinking, great. Peter just keeps building these clubs. Well, I built one in a town of 3,500 people. And when I put that one in there, that was really the telltale for me to know how small can small be. And I put it in this town of 3,500. And the beautiful part about it, Rock, is the rent was $1,000 a month, and that included utilities in that little town. Instead of needing 250 members to break even, I needed 150. And I always tell people, it's not what you take in the front door, it's what you take out the back door. And that's a great big lesson. People all the time, they want to talk to me about business. Hey, Peter, I do $1 million a year in revenue. I always say, what falls to the bottom line? I mean, hell, it's a really it's a pertinent, it's a really relevant question to the business. And that club performed. And at that time, Rock, when that third store opened up and performed the same level, I knew I had a tiger by the tail. And in fact, I've been quoted in saying that back then. I said, you know what, I've got a tiger by the tail here. I've got a product that's relevant. The consumer loves it. And when I went to the market, I didn't want to be just another me too. I said, hey, look, I'm gonna give you 24-hour access. You belong to one, you belong to them all, no contract. And so I put my money where my mouth is. And I was doing no contract when no one was, all right? So I said, look, I'm not gonna be another me too, which is a great lesson for some of your entrepreneurial listeners out there is, look, there's nothing wrong with going to market with a product and taking an existing product and making it better. There's nothing to be ashamed of that. I mean, how many times have we seen something we say, you know what, I would do it a little bit differently, and go do it, right? And that's what I did. So, you know, here I sit now today, going through the 2008. I opened my first club in 2003. I built a small empire at that time. I had private equity calling my phone every week, wanting to invest and give me capital.
Wow.
I didn't need capital because I was flush with cash, right? And but then I did the next prudent thing, which is very important, is I took some chips off the table. So I was doing about, in 5 years into this thing, I was doing about 5 million of EBITDA, and I sold 40% of my company for 47 million. So, and that money left, that number went to yours truly, right? So at that point for me, it was game over, meaning I had enough money there to support myself and the next 5 generations of my lineage, if I was just smart with it, right? And then I grew it from 5 to 20 million of EBITDA over the next 5 years, and I did it again, all right? And I sold 20%. So I gave up control of the company, that's another story in itself. But the bottom line, when I'm counseling entrepreneurs, I talk to them about a gradual exit along the way. Mm-hmm. You don't want to ride your business to the crescendo and then ride it down like a toboggan on the other side. You know what I mean? Take cash off the table, because that's what the risk, reward, return on investment, you have to do it. So today, in 2008, when the real estate market crashed, I had about 10 million cash, no debt, and I was off to the races, right? And when everyone else was hunkered down in their foxholes, I was standing up, picking things off, right? So today, you know, so what does that mean today? Well, I was able to take a company and grow it. With the first time I sold it, it had a $100 million valuation. In 5 years later, it had a $200 million valuation. And I did it through some acquisition, creating new brands. Today, I have roughly 6 brands, really 3 of them predominantly, but I have about 6,000 locations or licenses in 28 countries. So I'm living proof anything is possible. I mean, I grew up in a 2-room schoolhouse, right? I mean, so I'm the youngest of 7 kids. I grew up just literally middle class. My dad had a small grocery store in our hometown. So I tell people, look, I'm living proof that the American dream is alive and well, but it's not easy. You got to have the heart and the stomach for it, but it can be done. It really can.
It's an awesome story. Very, very authentic. So a couple of questions for you, no particular order. What did you do with the money when you cashed out? Where did you redirect it?
I redirected it. I spent some on myself. At the time I was married. So I built a beautiful lake home with the home that I'm in right now. And I invest a lot of real estate. I mean, today I probably have 40 million in real estate that's grown. And I'm a coupon clipper. And what I really love about that is I love, I create cash flow from rental properties, right? So it doesn't matter what my investment portfolio is doing. I've got the other traditional investment portfolio, which does its thing. I never dip into it. Okay. And as you know, we talked about that. The market's been great the last 5 years. I mean, it's been outstanding. So you have that working for you, but you generate enough cash flow to where you never have to look back at that. That's growing. Your cash flow is growing. So I've always been very conservative. Believe me, I'm conservative at heart. I mean, I'm a blue jean t-shirt kind of guy. And I have a great lifestyle. I have a Falcon 50 jet. I have a yacht in my home in Miami. I live in a penthouse in Miami. So I've been able to acquire, crap, right? Things that we probably, don't need, but along the way for me, I'm just speaking for myself with my own little insecurities, these little justifications that I buy along the way, and it just is what it is, right? But at the end of the day, I'm still that kid that grew up in the two-room schoolhouse. I'm really compassionate with people. I really love to help the underdog. I do a lot in philanthropy. So today my life is a little bit different than it was even 5 years ago.
Very cool. How much do you own still of the whole kit and caboodle?
I still own about 40% of Lyft Brands, but I don't control it. I stepped down as the CEO a year ago, January, which is that's a surreal experience.
Right.
But I mean, it's the right thing to do, right? And for me, I'm not a very good backseat driver, right? So for me, if I'm not flying the plane, I really don't. I have no interest in being there. So.
Right. Right.
And I'm off to other things, but
how old are you now?
An amazing journey, and my story is still being written.
How old are you now?
I'm 58.
Okay, same as me. Very cool. Let's go back to the whole vision part and the creative thinking. As you process, you open one, then you open up another, because I think a lot of people underestimate the amount of time that entrepreneurs like yourself spend in imagination, creative thinking, critical thinking, meditating, contemplating, visualizing, all of that. I'd love to hear a little bit. Take us back scenes into your processes around that.
Well, when I was creating the concept had been under our noses without anybody really realizing it. The hotel gyms sat there and they were not staffed. You opened it with your room key.
Right.
And so, when I started the Snap Fitness product, you could staff your gym literally 15 to 20 hours a week, People would come in, they would grab their workout and they would leave. 90% of my members lived within 2 miles of the club. So that was the product, and the consumer loved it. So as I was creating my concept, I couldn't have swimming pools. That's too big of a risk. Okay. So I didn't have swimming pools. I didn't have hot tubs where you could have problems. I kept my product very relevant and very efficient. So I had lots of cardio equipment, a lot of diversity there. So when people would say, Peter, do you have aerobic classes? I would say, I don't have aerobic classes, but I also, and this is what you have to get good at. You have to get good at making lemonade. So when people would say, Peter, do you have aerobic classes? I would say, no, I don't have aerobic classes, but I also don't have a schedule that you need to follow. And I say, look at my cardio offering here. I've got diversity. You could do a different piece of cardio every day of the week if you wanted to. So I'm really big on cross training, and you know what? One day you might bike, one day you might do the step mill, next time you might be running on the treadmill. So I show that, and then I would show my resistance equipment, and then my free weights. So those were my 3 areas. And I say, look, I've got everything in here that you will need to get fit. And I tell people, hey, look, here's the reality with me. Number one, I'm going to give you an affordable product, right? So it was like $30, $34, $35 a month. I'm going to give you 24-hour access, but here's the coup d'etat. I'm not going to lock you into some 12-month contract. This is month to month. And if I don't earn your business, earn your trust every month, it's really easy. You just quit. Now, but I say, for those of you who are passionate about fitness and this is something you're going to want to do long-term, if you want to commit to 12 months, if you want to prepay 12 months, I appreciate that. You pay 12 months, I'll give you 3 months free, right? So probably 15, 20% of my members prepaid their dues because it brought their cost average down. So that's the product. I wanted it to scream value. And I wanted to make sure that the product I put forth on the market from day one, that people could get excited about it. And clearly they did.
So you kept on listening to the client, observing, watching, adapting, and reframing what their needs were. And you really kept it fundamental, right? Simplistic.
Fundamental. Yeah, but here's the other part, Rock. When you have franchisees, you've got to create a playbook that people can follow. Okay.
Yeah.
The testament of a beautiful franchise is when I can take a bus driver, a stay-at-home mom, an entrepreneur. I can take anyone and I can teach them how to fish. And you do that by, and I don't think anyone's done it better than McDonald's. Okay. The McDonald's experience. And I left nothing to chance. I'm a real detail guy, really detail orientated. So when I would build a club, even right down from the signage, here's where this sign goes. So they would have a sign graph. Here's all your signage and here's where they go, right? Here's your lighting configuration. I would lay the equipment out. So, the semi didn't just come up with a bunch of equipment and you're over there thinking where you want to put it. You gave the guy a floor plan and he would move it exactly where you want it. Everything, it was a well-oiled machine. And tell you what, a testament to that, a validation to that. 5 years after I started it, in 1 year, I opened 377 new stores.
Wow.
I was opening more than one Snap Fitness store a day. Okay. And here's the beautiful part. If you had walked into my office, you wouldn't see people running around with their hair on fire. All right. Everybody. So everyone would stay in their lane. So I always figured myself as the head coach, and it's my job to make sure everybody does their job and they stay in their lane.
Right.
And the beautiful part is when I was building 3 or 4 clubs a month, those same systems and processes was the same when I was doing 1 a day. I would just plug in more human resources into each lane to manage the load, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Brilliant.
It worked.
I love it. Yeah. So you also went on and acquired some other brands as well after you got going. What was that like? You picked up some yoga?
Yeah, I did. I bought an interest in a company called 9 Round, and when I bought that company, it was there was the Hudson family that had created it. They were the inventors of it, and they were just really passionate about what they were doing. And I remember I flew down to South Carolina one day and I said, "Hey guys, I've been watching your business. I'm really impressed with it. Congratulations. I think that I can help you grow your business. And I've done it before. This is what I do. And what I would love to do is buy an interest in your company." And I said, "I'm just going to be honest with you. If I can't buy at least 40%, it's not worth my time." But I said, "Do you want to own 40% of a $10 million company? Or do you want to own 60% of a $10 million company or 60% of a $200 million company?" And, they made the right decision. I came on board, I bought 40%. And today with that product, we got really close to 1,000 locations, either open or in development. But we came in there, did a complete makeover. We changed the logo, we changed the franchise, the FDD. I mean, there was a lot of road rash in the early stages of that company that we had to clean up, and we were successful in doing that. But it's a good product today. It's a very good product.
I'm curious, out of a population, you said, because you probably know the numbers pretty well off by heart. If you go into a town of, what did you say, 3,500, how many could you expect to get as clients?
Well, you know what? It's about 18% of the population today work exercises.
Okay.
About 18%. Now, that doesn't mean they all have gym memberships.
Right.
Okay. That doesn't mean that.
They run, they bike.
And exercise is such a relative. It's so relative. I mean, some people say, "I walk." Okay. So, hey, walking is better than sitting sedentary on your couch. Nobody will deny that. But if you're walking and your heart rate never gets above 100, it's probably, look, it's great that you're up and getting the blood moving, but that is a far different scenario than the person who's running 30 minutes on a treadmill, as an example, right? So everyone's perspective of exercise, that gap is as wide as you could stretch your arms. All right. So, but the reality of it is today, here's what's interesting. In today's day and age, loyalty within a health club is minimal. People will jump ship at the drop of a hat. Okay. Right. And they want diversity. Today's consumer, they want diversity. They want the atypical workout, which is they go in on their own time. They do some weights, they do some cardio, and they leave. All right. There's another group that says, "I want to come in, I want to participate in a group fitness functional training class where I'm led by an instructor. They're going to push me to my limits. I want that." And then there's a group of people that say, I want I want both. I'm going to do a class a couple of days a week, and I'm going to train you. So you've got this full gamut, and you've got to be able, at the end of the day, the consumer gets the final vote. You and I can sit and talk about this all day long.
Right. So let me ask you a question about, I don't know if you have that in your area. Have you heard a thing called Buzz Fitness or BuzzFit or whatever?
Never heard of it.
So up in Montreal, we have that. It's like $10 a month, but it's essentially like a big penalty to get out of the contract. So it's little to get in, but big to get out.
Yeah.
So is there a trend going toward this very low cost to get in and just sign a bunch of people up that never end up going?
Yes, that would be the equivalent. That's what we refer to as the discount model, and it's very prevalent in the Planet Fitness type of product, where they're paying. They used to start out at like $10 or $12 a month. I think now it's like $15. And they've got some other things you can add on to it. But yeah, that's exactly right. They want to sell 10,000 memberships with the hopes that people don't use it all at the same time. And number two, that people don't cancel. And honestly, there's a moment of reflection there when people know that, you and I could stop 100 people on the highway today and say, raise your hand if you think exercise is good for you and makes sense. Every hand's going to go in the air. Okay. So there's a level of accountability that some people say, look, I'm not going to cancel my membership. For crying out loud, it's $15 a month. I spend more than that in 3 days at Starbucks.
Right.
I'm not going to cancel my membership. I'm going to hold myself accountable. I'm going to start working out. So there's a lot of people that belong to those discount players that don't cancel it. They don't use it, but they know that it's there in case they ever want to use it.
Yeah. They rationalize that the $10 is worth the one time they go a month.
Exactly.
And they're going to go 3 times next month, but that never happens. I get it.
Yeah. Or they do it January 1st until February, March 1st.
Right.
And at the end of the day, it costs them $120 a year. Who cares?
Yeah. Got it. Question for you that I've always pondered in my creative entrepreneurial mind is there a day when some of those machines are going to be plugged in and they're going to generate energy that gets put back into the system? Why do we not have machines that can generate solar electrical power?
You see some of that right now. The reality of it is it's cost prohibitive. Okay. It's cost prohibitive. And for the gym owner, he's probably better off taking those investable dollars and investing it in solar on his roof. You know what I mean? But you see some of that stuff, putting an alternator on it where it generates electricity and then stores it. That becomes very cost prohibitive. It's kind of fun for the person on it, but we're probably not going to see that. And gym owners too, at the end of the day, they're a little bit hesitant to spend money on gadgety things.
Sure.
One thing about opening a gym, it's very capital intense on the front end.
Yeah.
Right. Once you buy the equipment or lease the equipment, sign the dotted line, you are all in and hope that it works.
Yeah, for sure. It just seems that all this manpower of moving weight around, if it could somehow be harnessed, would be really good for global warming and all that stuff. Just curious.
I love from as a result of COVID, Mother Nature, our planet has gotten healthier.
Yes.
So I think that, we realize now that just our actions, we have to hold ourselves to some level of accountability, because this was living proof. This is a snapshot of what 3 months of less toxicity that we all put into the earth as humans makes a meaningful difference, a material difference in.
Yes.
And you keep in mind about it. We haven't experienced this probably in your and my lifetime.
Ever.
When we were kids, we didn't even think about exhaust of cars, and then they put in catalytic converters, and you know what I mean? But it's our planet now. We realize that we've got to take care of her.
Yeah.
Right. She can't sustain this load every year after year after year without some sort of damage. I
think she flexed her muscle and she said, listen, clean up your act, or I can come at you again and I'll clean it up for you.
Right. Exactly. That's why I think, and I hope that coming out of COVID, that's one of the lessons that we learn, a certain level of accountability across the board. For sure.
So a lot of people hope to get to a place where you're at, where they've been able to get some success, make a difference in people's lives, have a solid form of investments where money no longer is something you have to think about and worry about. What does somebody in your position start to focus on in your life?
Well, real honest, Rock. I mean, up until I was probably 50, my whole working career, I was motivated by making money.
Yeah.
That's just the honest to God truth,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and once I got over that hump of, really making a lot of money, then I started to think about, when people say money can't buy you happiness, the only people that ever say that are people with money. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I always tell people, look, given the choice of being rich or poor, take rich and take your chances, right? So, so I'm saying, look, having money is the way to go. But on that same breath, I tell them balance is meaningful. And that's where I'm at today. That, look, I want balance. I want balance with my family and friends. I want balance with my faith, with just not too much of any one thing and not too much of indulgence. Giving back means a lot to me. And I tell you what, anyone can give money. The real surreal experience that I had was giving of my time. When I'm back in Miami, I get on my bike and I bought this little trailer on Amazon, and I go to some of the bakeries in my neighborhood and I say, look, what do you guys do with your day olds, right? And in some cases I buy the day olds from them because they don't share the same vision that I do, and others, they give it to me. So I take that, I go to my local Publix, I buy a couple of cases of water, and off into the hood of Miami I go, and I get with the homeless and I roll up on them. I make friends. They have no idea who I am or what I've done, nor should they. But I get up and I'm just wearing jeans and a t-shirt, like I told you how I roll. And I say, hey, would you like a cookie, cupcake? And I sit down with them. And for those people I connect with, I tell them, hey, tell me what happened. How'd you get here? And it's just giving someone an ear. And I'll tell you, I haven't met anyone that likes where they're at on the street. Okay. They're down on their luck and whatnot. So I make friends with them, and subsequently, it's so rewarding. And even when I'm around Miami, especially around the grocery stores and where I live, every now and then I'll hear, hey, Pistol, which is a nickname some of my friends give me, hey, Pistol. And I'll turn around. It'd be one of the homeless people that I've met on the street. Right. Which I think is so beautiful, that just the fact that they feel like they have a friend in me. And I do. I mean, I love hearing their stories, and I hope that they can fight their way out of it.
Wow, that's gorgeous.
It's good stuff, right? It's good stuff.
Yeah,
and we all should do more of it.
I agree. Do you think that these people, there's a portion of these homeless people that do have mental illness, I believe, but do you think that some of them just did not have a chance to get their shit together? Do you think there's a good component of that?
Well, you hit it right on the head. The mental health component is a big part of it, because without mental stability, you can't hold a job, because you're just flaky. Yeah. And in today's work environment, you can't have somebody on your workforce that's complete flaky and radical mood swings. That doesn't work. So for some of them, I don't know, did you ever get your break? And I always tell people, look, you know what? If you sit around and you wait for your break, it doesn't come. You got to make your breaks, right? And you got to go get it. And I learned that lesson at 8 years old, working at a little popcorn stand outside my dad's grocery store. And he hit me right across the forehead with just a great life lesson. And I didn't know I'd be sitting here today, some 50 years later, and literally living that, understanding that, life is, you got to go get it. You got to make your breaks. It doesn't happen. No, the world doesn't owe you shit. Go get it. Right. I mean, at the end of the day, your parents, theoretically speaking, they owe you a roof over your head, and they need to feed you and clothe you to a certain point. But this idea that they're going to take care of you for the rest of your life and financially take you, that's, a lot of parents do that. And I'm guilty of that as well. But at the end of the day, I hope the lesson I've taught my kids is to get out there and go make something of your life. Don't look at me.
So is that what you learned from the popcorn stand, is you gotta go get the client?
Yeah. Well, hell, my dad, I was 8 years old, literally. And, scared shitless, to be honest with you. 8 years old. I'm running this popcorn stand. I could barely see over the counter. And my dad knew exactly what he was doing. And one day he walks by me. I remember it like it was yesterday. One day he walks by me, walks about 40 feet past me. He stops, he pivots, and he heads back towards me. And he stops. He said, "Hey, son, how are sales today?" And I was going to go into my 8-year-old dissertation of how sales were a little bit slow, right? I got about 5 words into it. He goes, "Son, it's slow because you're sitting behind the counter. You got to get out from behind that counter and go ask people if they want some of your popcorn," right? So I said, "Okay, Dad," right? After he left, I did. I mustered up my courage. And, at 8 years old, going up and pulling on an adult's sleeve and saying, "Hey, would you like some popcorn? I just popped it." And I mean, I'm being as convincing I can. And I meant it, and I felt it in my heart. Hey, look, I just popped it. It's fresh. It's delicious. You're going to like it. I was excited about it, right? Well, how do you say no to that? And I'd lead them back to my popcorn stand, and they'd buy some popcorn. Well, my sales doubled, right? So that lesson for me is my dad, he couldn't have been any more on point. You can either watch things happen or let stuff kind of fall your way and take what you get, or you can go out there and make things happen. And I've kind of fought like that my entire life. One of my favorite words is grit, right? And grit is something that I think every successful entrepreneur has, because you need to have it. There's going to be moments of unbelievable adversity, and these character building moments where you're either going to be under your desk in the fetal position, or you're going to spit in your palms and say, "Let's go." Right.
Yeah.
So fortunately I chose the latter.
Yeah, it's so fascinating to me that you can have an event that happens when you're a child that becomes a lens that you see life through almost for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And it's great when it's one like you had, which is, go after it, make it happen no matter what, be gritty, grab life. But for those people that have done the opposite, where they maybe pulled up on somebody's sleeve and said, "Would you like some popcorn?" The person had a rough day, and they turned and they said, "Get out of here, kid, scram."
Right.
And for the rest of your life, you interpreted that as, "I should never talk to strangers and ask them for," right?
Right. And fortunately for me, that didn't happen. Right. I mean, there were some people look at me that, with a scowl, but, I had enough yeses before I ever got a big no.
But you also had a good mentor. You had a father that guided you. He didn't send you into a death trap. He sent you knowing that an 8-year-old cute kid asking somebody if they want popcorn is going to have a high probability of success.
Yeah. And you know what? My father, he was not both my parents, they did not hover. So they would, they would let you skin your knees. Right. Mm-hmm. And then reflect on what the hell just happened. Right. And that was it through our entire lives, that, that level of discipline. Now, the other thing that my father, it's interesting. I saw with my father in his grocery store, I got to watch him. He owned the grocery store, but at any given moment, you would see him working the cash register, stocking the shelves, carrying out groceries, or shoveling the sidewalk. He put himself above nothing. He did whatever. And I tell you what, he got people to just walk on fire for him, because he was such a team player, and he would never put himself above anything. And that was my management style, my entire life, that I said, look, I'm not above anything. I mean, I'm still that guy. When I was working in my office as the CEO, if I'm using the urinal and there's gum in it, I would actually grab a paper towel and pull the gum out, because I know nobody's going to do it. I'm not going to go get the janitor. I'm perfectly capable of grabbing this gum. But, and I think you got to roll like that. You got to say,
well, that's leadership, right? It's being willing to do everything. And it's not you're serving all the time. You're adding value. And
absolutely.
And I agree 1,000%.
I always ask people, how do you want to show up? How do you want to show up in life? And I tell it to my kids all the time, right? I mean, dig in. I always talk about how do you want to show up. And then I also talk a lot about taking the hill. And that to me is a real, those are character building moments when you have to take the hill for those who can't. Right. And, you think about, like in the days of like Normandy, where you're getting off there and you think about it, you're charging the hill and you hope to God that the 1,000 men beside you are coming with you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there are moments in our lives where we have to do that. We have to stand up for those that don't have the courage to, or don't have the financial means to. We have to be a voice to those people that where we can really make a difference. And I think that's true if you've experienced any kind of financial wealth. I think it's true if in social media, if you're an influencer, you've got to leverage that stuff in a way where to do some good. It's just not all about me. It's about, look, thank you, God, for this amazing life that you've given me, and put me, I pray every day, hey, God, put me in harm's way, put me in the places where you feel I can do some good for you, and any good that I do, let them see your face and not mine, because he has given me an amazing life. I tell my kids all the time, if I get hit by a car tomorrow, have a celebration, because I've lived an amazing life, right? I didn't get cheated in any facet of my life, and it's not that it's been all kittens, balloons, and butterflies, but you know, I take the adversity, I take the ups with the downs. It's all part of life.
Yeah. Really good. Really great. Well, listen, if people want to learn about a franchise, connect with you, get some wisdom from you, are you active on social media? What is the best?
I am. And I make it really easy for everyone. So to follow me, it's just Peter_Taunton, TAUNTON. And that's where I do all my posts. My posts go from Instagram, they float into my Facebook, but anything that I do. And when I make a post, those are typically motivational or entrepreneurial, but the stories that I do, that's me in everyday life. And that's an important perspective, because that's where I try to show people what I'm doing when I'm not doing interviews or taking care of business, right? That's an important thing too. When I'm out doing things with the homeless, I'll show them what I'm doing. And even with the homeless people, when I'm done and we've had cookies and we've had water together, I ask them, are we friends? You know, let's say the guy, like if it was you, Rock, I'd say, hey, Rock, are we friends? And you'd say, yeah, we're friends. And I'd say, you mind if I take a picture of us? And then I'll take a picture and I'll say, meet my new friend, Rock. And what I'm doing, I want to bring awareness to the homeless. I want to bring awareness to the fact of, you know, giving away cookies and cupcakes. It's not about that. It's about the social connecting that you're doing, where you're actually taking your time and getting into the hood, getting dirty, right? Getting in the trenches. That's where all the magic happens. It's in the weeds, I'm telling you.
I love it. I love it. Gosh, what a beautiful episode to have you come on the podcast. Let's end it off like this with, I like to ask my guests to give me a few words that describe them, either how other people have perceived you or how you perceive yourself. I am
passionate. I'm a passionate guy. I'm really compassionate for people, especially the underdog. I stick up for the underdog without hesitation, always. I'm a hard worker. I'm committed to my causes. And I hope honestly, when the day when I die, that I hope my narrative is not that he was, you know, a successful businessman. And people usually equate that with finances, with money. I hope they say, man, you know what? He kept it humble. He kept it real, and he helped those where he could. I hope that's what they say.
I think they will. Peter, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. What a treat.
Hey, my pleasure.
So that's it for today's episode of Rock Your Money, Rock Your Life. Head on over to iTunes and subscribe to the show. One lucky listener every single week who posts a review on iTunes will win a chance in the grand prize drawing to be Rock's private VIP mastermind guest. Then head on over to rockyourmoneyrockyourlife.com and pick up a copy of Rock's free gift, so you too can reach your financial potential, enjoy extraordinary success, and live the life you've imagined. Join us on the next episode.